So Donald Trump is once again in hot water, this time over his handling of federal documents. Let's talk about it in today's video. Hi, I'm Mike Reiner. I'm a lifelong Democratic activist who's concerned about the direction our country is taking. If you share my concerns, maybe you could like this video, subscribe to this channel, maybe even click that little bell that will notify you when I post something new. So I could literally do this channel posting videos every day about what an idiot Donald Trump is and all the damage that he's caused this country. There are actually channels that do that, and they probably actually get more subscribers than I do. I mean, it's hard to blame most Americans for their anger over the treatment that this country had under Donald Trump. And literally, this guy has like a new outrage every day, so there'd never be a shortage of things to talk about. But frankly, I'd find it kind of boring. My goal, frankly, is to move our country forward rather than dwelling in the past. And while it's certainly true that Trump could well be the Republican nominee for president in 2024, I don't think there is any doubt that that's more than a passing possibility. The way for us to avoid a repeat of 2016 is frankly for us not to rest on our laurels, but to get out there and organize and deliver things that matter to the American people. This is what the Democratic Party is good at. And even with us having the problem children of Kyrsten Sinema and Joe Manchin in the Senate, we've still delivered an amazing COVID relief package and an infrastructure package that presidents repeatedly have been promising but never actually delivered on, including Donald Trump, as you may remember. But many of us as Democrats are still in shock over the victory of Donald Trump in 2016, and it only got worse as the 4 years wore on of his presidency. And it was really scary to watch in 2020 how close he came to actually being reelected. Although the reality is, the election wasn't that close. It's just that in a few key states, things might have been a little closer than we might have liked. And that's what prompted this idea that somehow the election could have been stolen. But the truth of the matter is, it really wasn't very close. The American people pretty soundly rejected Trumpism. But again, the way that we're going to win, both in 2022 and 2024, is by talking about what we do as Democrats and by getting out there and organizing and having good candidates who care about the people and who are able to express that. If we learned anything from the election in Virginia, simply saying that, oh, this other candidate is just like Donald Trump is not going to get us very far. We need to have things that we can point to that show that there is something that Democrats can deliver that's better than the Republicans can deliver. And what's more is that electing Republicans is actually a huge risk. Those are not insignificant arguments. I mean, as we've sat around complaining about Kyrsten Sinema and Joe Manchin, guess what? It turns out that Republicans have been blocking everything. Anything that's good, including the infrastructure, let's remember, was voted against by the majority of Republicans. And the COVID relief bill, which many Republicans now are going and touting the benefits coming from it, they all voted against. So we can very easily make the case that if Americans care about these things, the only way they have even the possibility of seeing them continue is for them to put Democrats back in office. Now, I get the fact that we as Democrats thought that, defeating Donald Trump would mean that the crisis was over and we were headed to a new Democratic majority and everybody was going to be happy. I also get the fact that when Joe Biden was elected, we had probably, frankly, unrealistic expectations of the things that he was going to be able to get done. And what's amazing, actually, is how close he did come to getting some of them done. I mean, if you had told me prior to the election that 48 Democratic U.S. senators would vote to change the filibuster to address voting rights legislation, I would have called you crazy. And yet we had that very thing happen. Now is clearly the time to keep pushing forward rather than simply throwing up our hands and thinking, oh, it's all over. But then Donald Trump comes back and he's in the news again, right? The latest news, of course, has to do with the Presidential Records Act. That act requires that documents that official policy was made on need to be retained by the White House and kept for posterity. Because after all, these documents do not belong to Donald Trump, like his personal business documents. Instead, they belong to the American people, and so we should have access to them. And despite the fact that Donald Trump is claiming executive privilege, which is ridiculous now that he's not even in office, the American people have a right to see the things that happened during his administration. I know he doesn't want that, but guess what? We do. So much has been made about the fact that there were boxes of documents found down at Mar-a-Lago, many of which, by the way, which were security compromised, raising the specter of the fact that having them at Mar-a-Lago might have actually led to security leaks, which are dangerous to the United States. None of this, though, should be surprising because all of it happened during his administration. I mean, who can forget the famous dinner at Mar-a-Lago where they were looking at satellite pictures from North Korea? If you thought that Donald Trump was a good steward of our national security, well, I don't know what has to convince you otherwise. But with all the furor and with the constant barrage of new Donald Trump information that keeps coming through, I think we've kind of missed, to me, what was the most critical piece of information to come out of this revelation. It turns out that while he was in the White House, Donald Trump was engaged in wholesale document destruction. He wasn't just taking documents down to Mar-a-Lago, he was actually destroying them. I mean, we've heard the stories about documents taped together, but it turns out there were whole sets of documents that are missing entirely. Unbelievably, as Maggie Haberman has reported from the New York Times, the White House toilets actually were getting backed up because Donald Trump was flushing documents down those toilets. It goes whole new meaning to those signs that say, please only flush toilet paper down the toilets. But what strikes me about this story is that this demonstrates something that actually was the issue in Donald Trump's first impeachment. Let's not forget about what was going on there. And let's not forget about the Mueller report, where special counsel Robert Mueller clearly said that Donald Trump was likely guilty and could be charged with obstruction of justice. And my guess is that's exactly what this document destruction is all about, obstructing justice. Now, this is a very serious crime because it goes to the heart of what the rule of law is all about. Are we going to respect the law, or are we simply going to let people do whatever they want and get away with it? Well, we know what side of the coin Donald Trump falls on that. I mean, the Presidential Records Act basically, although it requires the preservation of certain documents, basically there's no real enforcement mechanism. It just requires the president to act in good faith, and good faith is not exactly something we see a whole lot of with Donald Trump. But obstruction of justice rises to a whole new level now. If there is anything at this point that the Department of Justice could likely charge Donald Trump with, it would be obstruction of justice. I'll be interested to see if the Department of Justice is thoroughly investigating the allegations that we see in Maggie Haberman's reporting. If so, then my hope is that finally, we're going to see some sort of reckoning for the wholesale fiasco that the Donald Trump administration represented for the United States. Well, if you like this video, then you might want to check out this video as well, that talks about some of the legal challenges that Donald Trump has been facing over the last couple of years. I'll see you then. In the meantime, let's hope for continued progress. Thank you.